So what if Minato went to the 5 Kage summit instead of Sasuke? Now, the premise of this video is pretty straightforward. I'm going to be slapping Minato in Sasuke's place during the 5 Kage summit and seeing how he would do, how many people he would take down, or if he would just get blitzed and need Obito to help him like he did Sasuke. To make this video not insanely long, I'll go over Hokage Minato and then later touch on KCM Sage Mode to see if anything changes there. Now, these types of what if blank went to the Kage Summit videos have been done a couple times, and we've all seen the series, so we know how strong the Kage are and what events unfolded. And since Minato is a very popular character, most of you should know how strong he is, so I won't fully scale him and give his feats and everything, but I will go over a few things he has done that has relevance in the fight when the time comes for it. I'll strictly be using manga canon for this video, so without wasting any more time, let's get into it. I would like to straight away explain how I'm picturing this going and how it's going to be set up. So it'll basically be the exact same as what happened with Sasuke, but instead it'll be Minato there instead. So the Raikage would come out first and fight a bit, and then after a while Gaara would come and give backup and so on. Just to clarify, this is not going to be Minato versus the 5 Kage all at once like Madara, just need to put that out there. Starting with the Raikage fight, it's not really all too interesting, as we've seen it played out before in the flashback in chapter 542, and while it wasn't a full fight, we get the most important piece of information for the specific matchup, which is speed and reaction, as we see Minato fully react to A at his top speed, as he stated himself, and would have got a counterattack off in the form of stabbing him with a kunai if B wasn't there to knock A back with partial transformation. Obviously, this is both when they were younger and before they were Kage, so they both did get stronger from this point onwards. But from the way A talks about Minato, most notably the statement he made saying, "There is no shinobi faster than me, ever since the 4th Hokage died," implies that if Minato were alive, he would still be faster than the current A, which if anything is stronger, not weaker than he was during the Kage summit because everyone got some ridiculous War Arc power-up amp type thing. So yeah, I don't see A being able to defeat Minato here. The fight would probably play out the same way as it did before, with A charging at Minato full of emotion and rage just to get maneuvered and countered with a Rasengan or kunai. Now don't get me wrong, A is a tough guy, like we saw him chop off his own arm and he didn't even seem to care about it, but when you put him up against someone who's just blatantly faster and can easily react and counter you at your top speed, there isn't much he's going to be able to do against a Rasengan or two from Minato. Especially when you factor in Sage Mode, which Minato does have when he's Hokage. It's not just something he learns while in the belly of the Reaper as some think, it's kinda just raps for A. Next up is Gaara, and Gaara is weird because he's mostly featless other than him intercepting the Raikage against Sasuke, so people like to say his sand is faster than the Raikage, which I don't personally agree with, as we see later in the War Arc a stronger Gaara fighting his father Rasa, and their sand is relative in speed, and this Rasa died to part 1 Orochimaru, a Sannin, who I don't think anyone will argue with is weaker than Hokage Minato, so saying that Minato was going to get caught by Gaara's sand and like sand coffin or sand burial is just hard for me to believe, considering the dude could just teleport, and since Gaara is fighting the same place as Minato and the Raikage just were, there would already be some pre-existing flying Raijin marks for Minato to teleport to surprise attack Gaara if he needed. Gaara's defensive sand, while it is strong, I just don't see how Minato would not be able to get past it with his far superior speed, and considering the guy's one of the smartest fighters in the whole show, saying he wouldn't create a plan or an opening for himself to get past Gaara's defenses is just super disingenuous. Following this is the conference room, and the way I see this playing out is since Minato, has Sage Mode. Now, there's no telling if he would be using it or not, but if we give him the same motives as Sasuke for wanting to find Danzo, he would be in Sage Mode to sense him, and he would be sensing everyone else in the room as well. So at this point, what I personally see happening is him sending a shadow clone in or just rushing in himself and getting a scope of the situation and see everything with his own eyes, and then just teleporting back out to the room he fought Gaara and the Raikage in, as he'd be staring down Mei, Onoki, Mifune, Danzo, and all their guards. This being said, there's two ways we can go about these fights, which is we give Minato the exact same individual fights as Sasuke has, or we say Minato just goes in there and fights them all at once, both of which is going to lead to the same conclusion. Let's not forget Minato is known for being able to take on armies by himself and fight outnumbered battles, not forgetting he could use multi-shadow clones, and it's never stated how many he could make, but like even 2 shadow clones are enough to mop Onoki, Mei, Mifune, and the guards. For how the matchups for the individuals go, Mei doesn't have fast attacks at all. Yes, she started to melt Sasuke's ribcage Susanoo, but Sasuke reacted to this attack multiple times. Like, Sasuke wasn't even looking and was off guard and still managed to dodge it, so saying Minato is gonna get hit by that is crazy. Personally, I think Mifune just gets noticed. I've never met a single person or heard anyone say Mifune can beat or handle anyone of Minato's caliber. Even the Kage guards in that room aren't gonna be able to track Minato when he's teleporting around, and if you throw in the shadow clones that Minato will have, it's just too much for those guys to handle. Inoki is by far the strongest in this room, as he has dust release and can fly. And while that all does sound really nice, they're in an enclosed space that's not that big, so his flying isn't going to get him far or out of reach at all. And his dust release, if it hits Minato, yeah, it's wraps for him, but Obito was able to teleport inside of it, materialize long enough to suck both himself and Sasuke into Kamui before Inoki's jutsu kills them. And we've seen Minato teleport out from Obito trying to suck him into Kamui. So off that alone, you can say Minato would be able to teleport out of atomic dismantling jutsu. Granted that Obito was a lot younger, so maybe he wasn't as fast at sucking people into Kamui as he was then. But then there's a plethora of other reaction time feats Minato does have, including the Sage Mode buff he would get makes it really convincing that he would just teleport away from Inoki's dust release and blitz him. Lastly, we have Danzo on the bridge. And this one is the most complicated purely because of his hacks abilities, like the 11 Sharingans he had, including Shisui's Kodo and Matsukami, which lets him use Izanagi to avoid dying for a full minute per Sharingan. And with Kodo, he has the option to try and use it on Minato, only if the fight gets dragged out long enough. That being said though, Sasuke was able to kill him like a dozen times, and I don't think I really need to convince you guys that Hokage Minato was stronger than Sasuke. I've never met a single person or even heard anyone think that or try to make these claims. But you can also pretty easily scale Minato over Danzo with Hiruzen, saying Danzo was always afraid of Hiruzen and always trailed behind him, never catching up, which is also reinforced during his final moments before killing himself. And we see Hiruzen die to Part 1 Orochimaru, who is a relative to Jiraiya who praises Minato quite often, even going as far as saying he thought Minato was a child of prophecy. It's just clear that Minato is miles above these characters. So when it comes to the fight, Danzo's only chance is if he keeps Izanagi active constantly, instead of waiting and trying to use it on reaction like he was doing against Sasuke, which will deplete his chakra faster than what was shown and won't give enough time for Shisui's eye to regain power. All Minato has to do, which he has shown the ability to do multiple times, is place a seal on Danzo's back or anywhere on him, and just teleport and slam Rasengan's or kunai into him, or just apply any pressure to force the constant use of Izanagi until Danzo eventually runs out of eyes and gets blitzed. So to sum up what I said a final time before ending the video, the Raikage has lost to Minato before and still shows inferiority to him after his death, so Hokage Minato beats the Raikage. Gaara is mainly featless and has no speed feats that convince me his sand can defend against or catch Minato before he gets hit. Mei's attacks are shown to be slow and has no durability feats, so she'd probably just die by Rasengan. Mifune isn't defending against flying Raijin. Inoki is in an enclosed room, so his flying won't be all too useful and Minato could teleport out a dust release if he's about to get hit by it. And Danzo gets outlasted and forced to constantly use Izanagi until he's able to get blitzed. Let me say one more time. Minato basically solo won the third great ninja war by himself and is very capable of fighting outnumbered fights alone. Then you give him multi-shadow clones in Sage Mode, which he does have, is too much for the Kage to handle. That is going to wrap it up for this video. I hope it turned out well and you guys enjoyed it. If you like these type of what if hypothetical videos, I'd greatly appreciate if you would subscribe, as I plan on making a lot more of them in the future. Check out my other Naruto and Boruto related content if you're interested. Goodbye.